recipient, and that is Christopher P. Shema. Chris has 34 years of indigent defense experience. From an early age, Chris was taught the value of hard work, fair play, and respect for others, regardless of their station in life. Through engaging with IPDC, Chris found a community. Special friends like Catarata, Mike McDaniel, and John English welcomed him into the fold. And Chris began to share his talents through his work through the Vigo County Public Defender Office. In that position, he has had fascinating wins and successes, and he's committed himself to mentoring attorneys new to the practice. While serving on the Public Defender Board, Chris championed policies to change and support the fair administration of justice, and he pushed IPDC to develop programs and services that would be impactful to practitioners. It is a great honor to recognize Christopher P. Shema as one of IPDC's 2022 Gideon Award recipients. Chris.
Wow, it's hard to believe that I was a 17-year-old street punk from Southeast DC who got kicked out of 3 high schools before he found his way into a community college. Thank you. And I could spend all my time talking about people that I am grateful to because I stand on the shoulders of giants, okay? Guys who are no longer with us, like Michael McDaniel, Tom Shornhurst, they carried me not only professionally, but personally. When I went to my first TPI, you know, if all of you have been to TPI, you know you're supposed to bring a case to be prepared to start working on it. And my wife was dying. And I showed up and I apologized and said, I'm sorry, but I'm really probably shouldn't be here because I'm a mess. Michael McDaniel and Catarata came up and embraced me. And they said, you're right where you're supposed to be. And they became lifelong friends. And, you know, I can't be here without acknowledging them. And Gretchen Etling, after my wife died, she called me up and offered me a job at the Public Defender Agency. And for nearly 16 years, she constantly had my back. Because believe it or not, I have a talent. I can piss people off really well. I'm pretty good at it. Am I right, Bernice? You know, and David Hennison, yeah, I love him. We serve together. He's a warrior. He was another one of those people that's helped me out on so many occasions. But, you know, that doesn't mean we always agree with each other. And we could argue and argue and argue, and at the end of the day, shake hands because we are brothers. Okay? And I appreciate every one of you, and I want to echo something he said. Never forget who you are. Never forget you are a champion of justice. You stand between the poor schmuck that's being accused and all the power of the state. Everything they got is coming down, and it's up to you. When I was a young lawyer, I was bitching one time about how bad things, I'd say bad words. Guys are offended. And an old guy said to me, 2 things. I was all torn up because despite my best efforts, somebody had gotten jammed. And he said, you know, kid, not even Jesus can save everybody. And he said, you're pretty smart, you're pretty good in your courtroom, but you ain't even Jesus, you know? And later on, people like Kim Jackson and Stacy would say to me, man, you make the best appellate records. You make such great appellate records. You preserve issues. Susie, you're nodding your head, okay? Susie and I train people together. What that means is I lost a lot. You know, yeah, I like to talk about my wins, but I lost a lot of cases. But, you know, when you do what we do, we don't pick the facts. I'll take that case, you know, unless we're masochistic, okay? But somebody taught me somewhere along the line, we're not responsible for outcomes. We're responsible for our effort. And I always tried to bring something of myself to the table so that at the end of the day, the adversaries, and I say that in the oral, because often the real prosecutors wear a black robe. No offense. Okay? Judge asked me one time, how come every time we're having a trial with you, I get this migraine headache, and I just hate life. It's just, I feel like I just can't stand being in the room another minute. And I always took a big dictionary with me to trial. Good practice, good. Always take the biggest dictionary you can find. And I said, well, Judge, give me just a second. And I looked up the definition of trial, and I said, Your Honor, you may not be aware of this, but a trial is defined as an ordeal of great suffering. We don't call them get-togethers, picnics, chit-chats, or tea parties. They're trials. And he leaned back. Well, then you've certainly been doing your job. But as some of you may know, I recently retired from the public defender agency. I still have my license. I'm still doing private practice. Boy, is it good to be retired. Okay? But I thought it would be easy. I thought I'd go to Social Security. Hey, I'm done. Give me my money. It's been real, you know. They shuttered their doors. It took me forever to actually get the money I was supposed to be getting, and it was a problem. But I finally got through to somebody, and I was telling her my ordeal, and she said something that profoundly affected me. She says, you know, you really should have been a comedian. Damn, I wasted my life. I should have been a comedian. I could have been out in Hollywood getting slapped for pissing people off instead of being yelled at. Okay? So I wanted to go last because this is not only my opening farewell as a public defender, it's my opening act as a stand-up comedian. But I want to go out with a bang, and I want to say something that's near and dear to my heart. I could spend all day talking about the people I'm grateful to, not the least of which is Gretchen Atling, when she hired me, knew what she was getting, and that was somebody who was going to constantly be blowing up her phone. You've got to stop him. He's demanding speedy trials. It's screwing up our documents. Well, that's his job, she said. Well, it's making it difficult. That's his job, she said. I'm not going to criticize an attorney for doing their job, but I've been around long enough to know that we do get punished for doing our job. We get intimidated, we get bullied. And if I can share one thing with you, and this comes from Southeast DC, never back down to a bully. Never, ever, ever give them any quarter. You stand your ground, you are respectful in tone and in word, but you don't back down. Judge told me one time, stop arguing. Very well, Your Honor, I will respect your ruling. However, I'd like the record to reflect that as of this moment, my client will not be getting effective assistance to counsel because all I know how to do is engage in legal argument. I mean, when I file a brief, I have sections called argument. So I would like the record to reflect, I will no longer object, I will no longer argue, I will sit here mute, but this trial is not one where the accused is being represented effectively by counsel, because I'm afraid that you're going to put me in jail if I argue with you. You're not getting away with that. You argue whatever you want. Thank you, Your Honor. If you have a legal position and you articulate it, you know, one mistake I think we make is we assume that the judges have studied the law and the cases as much as we do. And some of these judges, I don't mean any respect, but they were real estate lawyers before they got on the bench. Okay? Or they were you know, personal injury lawyers or whatever. That you talk to them about Brady and Gideon and they go, what? You know, it's like, I didn't realize when I got out of law school, more part of my function is to educate prosecutors and educate sometimes the judges. I had a judge one time, I gave him a copy of Crawford because he didn't seem to understand the concept of confrontation. He said, "This is hearsay." So what? That's not the test. Did you read Crawford? Or in my favorite case, Hammond versus Indiana, where the Supreme Court of the United States said, what part of confrontation does the Indiana appellate court not seem to understand? And I had it all highlighted. You read it? He said, okay, Ms. Shema, you can have your case back. Always take your Xerox cases with you. And I said, oh, Judge, that's for you. I know what the opinion says. I didn't mean it to sound that way, but he looked at me and kind of went, I guess I got that coming, you know? I've had judges yell at me, I've had prosecutors cock their fist at me, but I've never been held in contempt, I've never been sanctioned by the disciplinary board, because if you are respectful in tone, respectful, and you don't lose your cool, the person who wins the argument is usually the person who keeps their cool. If I see a prosecutor's head pop off, it's like, yeah, I got this. I got this. His head just popped off. You know, it's like, the judge, you told me, you're objecting too much. You need to stop objecting so much. And I said, well, Your Honor, with all respect, I have to object to that. What? I object, you tell me to object too much. Every objection I've made has been made on sound legal grounds. And if you check the record, you'll see you've grounded half of it. And she sat back and she said, oh, I've got him now. You're right in my web. Well, Mr. Shema, perhaps you should object half as much. And I said, well, I can certainly respect that position, Your Honor, and I can understand from your point of view why would you say that. But please understand from my perspective, I wish you would be right. Right's his often. And I'm going to object if I think there's something objectionable. Proceed. You know, it's like, stand your ground. Stand your ground. You are a champion of justice. Never forget that. Because you know what? It's easy to be a schlub. It's easy to be a guy that gets a paycheck and shows up with the shoes, maybe shine, maybe not. So, don't be that one. Don't be that one. I didn't go through all this, go through law school, and stay up at night so I could kowtow. That's not how I roll. So, I'm going to take one thing. I have one point to make. I have at my table people who not only help me professionally, but have helped keep me alive. I have with me a group of distinguished veterans who have been wounded while serving their country. And they have asked me to ask you, why is it that they can get every kind of opioid ever been made, but for the asking? But if they, based on their own personal experience and their own personal beliefs, choose to treat both their physical pain and their psychic pain by smoking marijuana, they're treated as criminals. They're prosecuted criminally. Why? Because our legislature doesn't have the guts to stand up to the pharmaceutical industry and legalize marijuana, at least medical marijuana. That's a shame. They should be ashamed. And now we have a Court of Appeals case, God bless whoever wrote it, that said with legal hemp, the only way marijuana can be proven is with the chemical analysis. Well, I'm here to tell you, if you need somebody to show up at a PCR because an attorney didn't ask for a chemical analysis on a marijuana case, I'll be there, okay? That's their burden. They have to prove that this is marijuana, not legal hemp. That means going to Indianapolis and getting it tested every single time. If they won't legalize it, then what's bankrupt? And if that doesn't work, if it comes back and says marijuana, then we have this thing called the Restoration of Religious Freedom Act. Remember that? And I think it had to do with cakes. But it says if you have a deeply held religious belief, you can't be prosecuted for exercising that belief. Well, you know, God didn't wait until the second book. First book, Genesis. He says, God created the grass and all the seed bearing plants. And God checked it out and said, this is good. I give it to you. I give you the Holy Bible.
to enjoy your meal. I will dismiss you for the